episode, we're going to be recapping some of the things that happened in Week 12, specifically the big wins for most of the playoff contenders, and then also big losses for playoff contenders as well. And then we'll jump into Week 13 preview predictions for gambling and whatnot. Let's jump right into this. Let's go over what happened on Thanksgiving. Big game here for the Bills and the Lions. The Bills end up winning the game. It was a lot tighter than people were expecting. The Lions really were scrapping, and they played well. Jamal Williams continues to be incredible for that Lions offense. DeAndre Swift is seeming to get a little bit more healthy as the season progresses here, and that's a good thing for that offense as well. And they actually have way more weapons than you would expect. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown is incredible too, and Jared Goff is facilitating that offense and getting the ball out to his playmakers. And so they're a scrappy team. They're a feisty team. They're a pain in the butt when you have to play them in general, because they're just a solid team through and through. Dan Campbell, I'm glad that they're getting on a little bit of a win streak. Well, they had a win streak until this game. They were 3 in a row, almost 4 in a row there, because it looked like they had the Bills on the ropes. And of course, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs made some magic happen at the end of that game, threw a bomb, and they kicked the field goal to win the game. And that was all she wrote. That was incredible. So that was really awesome. Good Thanksgiving game there. Obviously, Bills stay in contention there. They are still trying to potentially win that AFC East division. It's going to be tough to do with the Dolphins still winning and whatnot, so we'll get to that a little bit later. But the next game we're going to go to, another Thanksgiving game, Cowboys-Giants. The Cowboys get a big win here, division win that they're going to need. They're now 2-0 against the Giants in the division. And so that's really going to be important for them, especially if somehow the Eagles slip up and lose to the Giants at some point in this season. They have not played the Giants once yet. They played them twice in the last few weeks of the season, which is pretty wild. And it's going to have a lot of playoff, implications with, how that goes with the division. But Cowboys, really, the Giants put up a great fight in this one. The Giants were, I think, up 13-10 at the half, and then the Cowboys finally put some real drives together. And so that was a huge thing for the Cowboys to do, just to kind of come back in that game a little bit. Neither team was really pulling away from each other, but the Cowboys eventually got it done, which is just a huge deal for them, to stay within punching distance of the Eagles in the NFC East, as well as within reach of the 1 seed if the Eagles were to slip up. So next game, another big-time NFC contender is the Vikings. They got a big win on Thanksgiving as well against the Patriots. I really thought this was going to be a much more tough game for the Vikings going into it, because I thought, Kirk Cousins, his worst games are usually prime time. His worst games are usually teams that have a very good pass rush and can get after the quarterback. And it looked like it didn't really matter. They kind of neutralized that pass rush from the Patriots, and Kirk Cousins was getting the ball out of his hands and getting the ball to his playmakers, especially Justin Jefferson. So that was a huge deal. And so they get a big W. Once again, they're one of the teams that is, within striking distance of Philadelphia in that spot. So that's going to be huge for them as well. And next team, or next matchup, I should say, Dolphins-Texans. Dolphins get another big win. The Texans aren't very good, and they were starting Kyle Allen in this one, so it's not like they were super competitive to begin with, but the Dolphins take care of business. Tua still looks good. Their playmakers are still very explosive, and, they're looking to just lock up that AFC East title potentially and, go to the playoffs and make some real noise. Next team, the Jets, also in the AFC East. They are back on track now after benching Zach Wilson, at least for this game and probably for the rest of the season, considering what Mike White was able to do on Sunday. I think he had 3 touchdowns. He made Garrett Wilson a happy man once again, because he was getting the ball once again, and Elijah Moore was getting the ball again. And Mike White basically just made that offense run as it should. Zach Wilson was probably just trying to do too much. He just was being inefficient, just wasn't hitting the layups when they were there. And Mike White did exactly that, and the Jets rolled. It was an impressive win by the Jets. Their defense is still really, really good. And so they are, once again, also like the Bills and the Dolphins, trying to stay, in contention for that AFC East title. They have a big time, head-to-head matchup against the Bills, where they've won that one already. So that was huge for their confidence going forward, anyways. So the Jets, you got to look out for them. They have a very good chance of winning this. Well, not winning the division, but getting a spot into the playoffs this season, which is something that nobody was expecting when they first started. So, especially considering how much of a gauntlet that the first, 8 games of the season were when you look at the schedule at the beginning of the offseason. Next game, Commanders-Falcons. This is impressive. The Commanders are rolling right now. As soon as Taylor Heinicke was inserted into that starting lineup, he basically just like solidified that offense. That offense was very shaky with Carson Wentz because of how bad he was in the pocket and how turnover prone he is now as a broken quarterback. It's been too many years now we've seen Carson Wentz just be terrible at football to like think he's really salvageable. So Taylor Heinicke, just coming in and leveling that ship, which is super huge for them because the Commanders are a solid football team. They have weapons on the outside, Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, rookie, and then they have Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson Jr. I mean, they have weapons everywhere, and that defense is playing way better than it was in the beginning of the season, and they've always been pretty decent. They've had some injury luck, or unluckiness, I should say, and now they're getting some of their pieces back, and that's proving to be huge for their defense. So the Commanders, man, they are sticking right there. It looks like the NFC East is the best division in all of football right now. Every team is in the playoff picture right now. So, like, I was just looking at this, and it was wild to look at. The Eagles are the 1 seed. Then you have the Cowboys, I think, is the 5. And then the Giants are the 6 seed, and the Commanders are the 7. So you literally have all of them in the playoffs right now. Like if the season were to end today, all 4 NFC East teams would be in the playoffs in the NFC, and that would be a super wild thing to watch. But yeah, it's an impressive division right now. Commanders keep rolling, and they're going to give a headache to some of these teams coming down the pipe. So impressive win by them, and they just keep rolling. Next game, Chargers-Cardinals. Chargers get a big win here. They're such a weird team, man. They keep every game crazy close, but they find ways to win in weird situations. Good team against a good team, against a bad team, it doesn't matter. They're always going to be in close games for whatever reason. And then they pulled one out here against the Cardinals the last second, 2-point conversion, got it done. Gerald Everett caught a 2-point conversion with Justin Herbert passing the ball to him, of course. And that's just a huge win for them and their confidence going forward. They get Keenan Allen back in this game, and they're looking to, start to get a little bit more chemistry with him, and that offense keeps going. Hopefully they can get Mike Williams back at some point during this season, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But they're definitely looking towards the AFC playoffs and hoping they can find a way to get in there because obviously the Chiefs aren't going to give up the AFC West title there. So, yeah, big win for the Chargers. Cardinals is a little bit disappointing. Probably should have won that game. Gave it up at the end there. But they fought tough, and they're a talented team, and the Chargers just kind of got it done. Next game, Chiefs. Big win here, obviously, against the Rams. The Rams are just not a good team right now, especially with Bryce Perkins in there as a QB rather than Matthew Stafford. Their defense, talking about the Rams here, it's still very tough. So Patrick Mahomes did not have like a crazy explosive day on offense, but they did enough to get the job done. Travis Kelce still proving to be one of the best tight ends. Well, definitely the best tight end in football right now, and proven to be one of the best tight ends in the history of football. He had a huge touchdown to start that game. So, man, they are just rolling right now. I don't see a path where the Chiefs aren't at least in the AFC title game. And if I think they're probably going to be, the Super Bowl favorite for the AFC right now, of course. Especially with like the Bills struggling a little bit right now. Next game, we got the 49ers versus the Saints. The 49ers shut out the Saints. Saints are, man, I've said it all year. They're kind of one of those Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type teams where they can come out and be explosive at times, and sometimes they can just be like non-existent, just be super stagnant. This is what they were in this game. They shut them out 13-0, so it wasn't a crazy explosive game by the offense for the 49ers. The Saints do have a solid run defense, so I think that's probably what what it came down to, because Christian McCaffrey has been very good this season with the 49ers. Kind of shut him down a little bit in this game. Elijah Mitchell as well. And he eventually got hurt in this game, unfortunately. So I think he's going back on the IR after a stint earlier in the season. So the 49ers roll, though. They win the game. That's all that really matters right now, as they're trying to stack wins to go ahead and try to take a strong hold on the NFC West there. So huge win for them, especially considering one of these other teams in the NFC West lost, and it was a big deal. Next game, Eagles versus Packers. This was Sunday Night Football. The Eagles get a W. It was not pretty. It was close for a lot of the game. And then the Eagles started to pull away at the end. What was impressive, though, was the fact that the Eagles ran or rushed for the most yards since 1948 with 363 yards, which was crazy. Jalen Hurts had over 150 rushing yards himself. And he was impressive in the game. He's basically the only reason they won that game, because the defense was giving up quite a few points when they were going back and forth with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers eventually left that game with a rib injury. He said he got hit in the first quarter at some point and then got it re-aggravated in the third, and he left the game eventually. Jordan Love replaced him, and he actually threw a touchdown and looked pretty impressive in that one. I don't know if it's because the Eagles were at that point up by a decent margin, and they were just playing kind of more of like a prevent type defense. Not exactly that defense, but more of a let's just not do something crazy here and lose this game somehow. It got closer than it should have at the end with Jordan Love, but eventually, the Eagles put them away and won that game. They scored over 40 points, I think, for the first time this season, the Eagles did. So that was a good thing to see, that their offense can come back after a couple, I want to say it was 2 weeks in a row there, Colts and the Commanders, where their offense was kind of sputtering a little bit. It's good to see that the offense can get back on track and pass the ball and really rush the ball really well. That offensive line is very impressive for the Eagles right now. So they go on to their 10-1. Let's see if they can keep stacking these. They got a tough matchup next week against the Titans, so we'll see what happens there. As long as they keep stacking these wins, they're going to go ahead and secure that 1 seed, and that would be humongous for them going into the playoffs. All right, this is the big losses for Contenders this week. The Browns beat the Buccaneers. This was disappointing to me. I really thought at this point in time, the last win that Tom Brady and the Bucs had against the Seahawks was pretty impressive, and so I was thinking, this is the time of year where Tom Brady really turns things around. He rallies the troops. He gets everybody going in the right direction, and the Buccaneers go on a little bit of a run going into the playoffs, get some momentum there. Just didn't happen, man. Leonard Fournette was out in this game, and their run game kind of suffered because of it, I believe. A lot of people were saying that Rachaad White should replace Fournette as the starting running back, and I don't think, based on what happened on Sunday, I don't think that should be the case anymore. I think Leonard Fournette is a good running back still. He's just been a little bit banged up this season. But yeah, it was a very disappointing loss for the Buccaneers. Tom Brady and Mike Evans cannot get on the same page right now. Tom Brady and Chris Godwin are definitely on the same page. I had to go up against him in fantasy. That was not fun. So a big loss for the Buccaneers. They're still atop the NFC South. They're probably still going to end up winning that division, but it just does not look great for the Buccaneers right now. And the Browns get a win right before, obviously, Deshaun Watson gets off that suspension, and now they have a chance to make a little bit of noise there maybe in that AFC North division now. All right, next big loss. Jaguars beat the Ravens. This was an impressive showing by Trevor Lawrence. He put the team on his back, made some incredible throws at the end of this game. Doug Peterson has nards of steel. He goes for it for the 2-point conversion to win the game, and they get it. Zay Jones had a big game. Marvin Jones had a big game. It was impressive by Trevor Lawrence. I think he's starting to come into his own now, with Doug Peterson kind of helping him along the way, which was a huge deal for Carson Wentz once upon a time and Nick Foles. So I think this is just, you can only go up from here with Trevor Lawrence. So that's a huge deal for him. But on the flip side, the Ravens, man, they lose another game where they give up a lead. This is probably the 4th one on the season now, where I think they've literally led in every single game by a decent margin and then gave it up at the end of the game. That's all their losses. So it's just, man, the defense right now, the offense just doesn't have any weapons. It's unfortunate for the Ravens right now because of the fact that they just have lost all their weapons, and some of their players are just not making plays in the high leverage situations. Like Mark Andrews dropped an easy touchdown in this game. It's just unfortunate for Lamar because he's getting a lot of pushback right now, and I don't think he deserves a lot of it. So we'll go to the next game, but that was disappointing for the Ravens. The Raiders beat the Seahawks. The Seahawks, man, I really thought that they were like going to be the NFC West, favorites as, the season continued. But it looks like the 49ers have pretty much, stole that whole division from them at this point in time. The Seahawks can still win this division. It's not completely over, obviously, but they have not looked good the last 2 weeks. I don't know how you get smoked by the Raiders. Like, really all they have right now is the run game, and the Seahawks could not stop it. Josh Jacobs ran all over those boys, and he got put on the injury report super late in the week with a calf injury, re-aggravated it during the game, and then still ran for the game-winning touchdown in overtime. Very disappointing for the Seahawks. Thought they were going to win this game. Thought they were going to cover. Completely wrong there. So disappointing for the Seahawks and their, ambitions to, go into the playoffs and make some noise. They're looking a little bit more, beatable than they did earlier on in the season. They looked feisty and a tough matchup early on in the season, and now they're showing some kinks in their armor. So it is what it is. Bengals, Titans. The Bengals beat the Titans. This was a big win for the Bengals, obviously, as they're trying to take over that division from the Ravens. And I think they have at this point. And then the Titans, a big loss for them. They wanted to continue to obviously stack some wins because they're obviously going to win that AFC South. It's just a matter of seeding right now for them. And they wanted to probably be that 2 seed. And a loss here in the AFC is going to, not be great for them when it comes to seeding. So the Titans lose a close matchup against the Bengals. They were without Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon in this one. The Bengals pulled it out still. So Joe Burrow is just still balling right now and making things happen. So that's going to be interesting to see if they can get really hot. They're peaking right now pretty much at the right time to go into the playoffs with some momentum. So that's pretty much it for the Week 12 recap. Now let's get into Week 13's preview, predictions, gambling, all that good stuff. This week, starting with Bills -5 against the Patriots. Man, the Patriots always give the Bills trouble. But the last time that we saw the Bills and the Patriots in the playoffs with Josh Allen just operating on all cylinders, he's not exactly that this season right now with kind of his elbow and all the kind of things that's happened this season. Josh Allen smoked the Patriots last time. And so I want to say that I will take the Bills and the points in this one. I just have a feeling the Bills are going to win this. They're going to get on a little bit of a roll here as they barely escape the Lions on Thanksgiving, but I do like their offense still, and I like Stephon Diggs to make some plays. Next game, Vikings -3 versus the Jets. The Jets are obviously an impressive team. Their offense is much more solid now with Mike White in there. Their defense is impressive. The Vikings have their ups and downs, but for the most part, they've been an impressive offense. Their defense has been okay. They've made some plays in big spots, so they can be a tough team to play against. And I don't know, man. I think I want to go Jets in the points here. That's what I'm feeling right this second. Things can change throughout the week, but that's what I think I'm going here. Next game, Commanders -2.5 against the Giants. This is a crazy line. This line wouldn't have made sense 2 weeks ago. The Commanders have really gotten on a roll here. They've been impressive. The Giants have lost a few games the last few weeks, and so they've shown that they're a little bit more beatable than people were expecting. They're not as good as people were expecting them to be. As they started off so hot, but I think I'm going to go Commanders here. I'm going to ride the hot hand here. Commanders basically with a field goal. I'll take that every day of the week. It looks like they might take over that spot as the third spot in the division from the Giants right now. The Giants are reeling a little bit. Next game, Ravens -8.5 versus the Broncos. I want to take the Ravens so bad here because the Broncos are so bad on defense. The problem is the Ravens just don't have an offense right now. It's literally Lamar or bust. And so I think I have to go with the Broncos because the Broncos defense is so good. That's the only reason. Ravens offense, unexplosive, don't really have anybody to throw the ball to other than Mark Andrews, and he's banged up still. And then on the flip side, the Broncos defense is very, very impressive. So I think this game's going to be closer than people expect. So Broncos and the points at 8.5. Next game, Eagles -5 versus the Titans. The Eagles barely covered last game against the Packers, which I thought they would not. I'm going to say that I'll take the Titans and the points here. This is a team where the Eagles have shown that they are still susceptible to the run game a little bit. Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs in all of football, obviously, and that run game is impressive. And so I'm going to have to see it to believe it to see if Derrick Henry gets absolutely stuffed here. But I don't see it. I just don't see it happening, honestly. That's the problem. The Eagles can. And the Titans' defense is way better than people think. It's pretty impressive. You can't really run the ball on them, so this game's going to be a whole lot on Jalen Hurts and his ability to throw the ball. A.J. Brown, kind of a revenge game for him against the Titans, his former team, obviously, who traded him to the Eagles in the offseason during draft day. That's going to be crazy because I think he's going to want to show out. So it's going to be a fun game to watch, but I don't know, man. I think the Titans cover. And I think the Titans have a very good chance to win this game, actually. It's going to be a tough spot for the Eagles. If the Eagles can win this game, I have so much more confidence in them going forward. But I will go Titans with the points at 5. Browns -7 versus the Texans. Texans are such a bad team right now, mostly because Kyle Allen is the starting quarterback. I don't know if he's going to continue to start. I don't know what's going on with Davis Mills exactly. I don't know what his status is. But if Kyle Allen's starting in this game, I got to go Browns, especially considering Deshaun Watson's coming back. It's kind of a revenge game for both teams here. Deshaun Watson's going to want to show out against his former team, and the Texans are going to really want to beat the Browns and Deshaun Watson because of the whole situation there, obviously. So I still got to go Browns, though, because if Kyle Allen is starting, it's going to be ugly, I believe. So Browns -7. Lions -1 versus the Jaguars. This is basically obviously a pick'em game. The Jaguars are getting a little bit of momentum here. The Lions, I think they have instilled some confidence in themselves considering that they almost beat the Bills on not Sunday, but Thursday on Thanksgiving. So I think I got to go Lions here. I think the Lions are a pretty tough squad, and they'll continue to play well. The Jaguars are trending in the right direction, but I don't know if they're there just yet. Next game, Packers -3 versus the Bears. This is going to be a weird matchup because if Trevor Siemian starts for the Bears and Jordan Love starts for the Packers, I think I just got to go with whoever has the better weapons at this point in time. Whoever has the better all-around football team other than at QB right now, and that's got to be the Packers for me. So I'm going to go Packers with the points at -3. I think Jordan Love can do just enough to get this, game done. I think basically Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon can carry this squad at a certain point. So I like them to beat the Bears. The Bears are a little bit banged up right now with their defense, and so I like the Packers in this matchup. Falcons -1 versus the Steelers. Man, the Steelers look kind of good against the Colts, but you can only say so much about that because of the fact that the Colts are so inept on offense. And the Falcons are still technically in the running for the NFC South with Tampa Bay losing this past week. Man, this is a tough one. A pick 'em essentially. I think I'm gonna go with the Steelers, man. The Steelers are a little bit more feisty than I was expecting them to be. They got a little bit of life with Kenny Pickett playing a little bit better as of late. George Pickens is a very impressive player. Deontay Johnson is still good. Najee Harris is a little banged up, but they have a little bit of a Rolodex of running backs in that backfield that they can kind of roll through and just get enough out of them to make the running game respectable. So yeah, I think I got to go Steelers in that matchup. Next game, 49ers -3.5 versus the Dolphins here. Man, the Dolphins, I feel like, other than the fact that they beat the Bills, I don't think they've played anybody as good as the 49ers so far. The 49ers defense is very good, so it's going to be interesting to see how the 49ers defense plays Tua in this very explosive offense. The 49ers I feel like sometimes they struggle to score on offense. That's really just due to Jimmy G being up and down a little bit. And basically, if the run game isn't really working for the 49ers, the offense doesn't get going. kind of like what happened with the Saints game. But I don't know, man. I just feel like the Dolphins defense has not been very impressive either. You can run on them, and so that's the whole 49ers bread and butter. So I think I'm going to go, man, I want to say Dolphins so bad, but I think the 49ers are just a more mature team. They're going to be ready for this game. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan is the teacher, and Mike McDaniel was the student at one point. So I think Kyle Shanahan's going to have some things up his sleeve for McDaniel. So I got to go 49ers here, -3.5. Seahawks, -8 versus the Rams. Seahawks have not given me much confidence the last few games, obviously losing 2 straight to the Bucks and then to the Raiders this past week. Rams are not a good team, but they were kind of playing tough against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are a much better team than the Seahawks right now. So I'm going to take the Rams and the points. It's going to be close. It's an NFC West showdown. The division games are always closer than you expect them to be, so I'll go with the points for the Rams. Chiefs -2 versus the Bengals. Man, the Bengals are like, it's almost the exact same situation as what happened last year in the regular season, where Chiefs were rolling. The Bengals were kind of on the come up. They were peaking at the right time at the end of the season, and the Bengals beat them last season in this spot. And I think that since the Bengals are the underdog here, I'm going to take the Bengals and the points. I think Jamar Chase is probably going to be back for this game. I think Joe Mixon's going to be back for this game. They're going to have their full gambit of weapons. And that Bengals defense, they can stop the run, and they can be very competitive in the passing game. So I will take the Bengals and the points. I like the Chiefs to still probably win the game, so I'm really threading the needle there with the close points. But let's go to the next one. Chargers -2 versus the Raiders. The Raiders offense looked really good, which is something you haven't really been able to say a whole lot this season, unfortunately, for them. But the Chargers, man, they always keep games close. You can run on the Chargers. Josh Jacobs is playing at a very high level right now. And so I'm going to go with the Raiders and the points here. Chargers, I just can't give them the points a lot of times because, like I said, they have the tendency to keep teams in games as well as lose games that they shouldn't. So I'll go with the Raiders and the points at 2 there. Cowboys -10 versus the Colts. This is a primetime game. Somebody's going to call me a hater. Somebody's going to call me unbiased. I will take it on the chin. I like the Colts in the points in this one. I know the Cowboys have looked impressive. They have beat the crap out of the Vikings. They beat a division rival in the Giants the last game. But sometimes I feel like in these primetime matchups, the Cowboys shrink a little bit, and the Colts are one of those teams where they're probably going to think going into the game, we're just going to roll these guys, and it's going to be way more competitive than they think. I feel like the Cowboys probably win the game, but I think it's going to be much closer than people think, and the 10 points gives me enough confidence to say the Colts will cover. Next game and last game, Buccaneers -3.5 versus the Saints. Man, this is... The Saints have had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers number for 2 years now. Tom Brady has been very up and down this season. The run game has been very up and down for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The defense has been very lackluster, considering what we've seen the last 2 years from Tampa Bay. So, man, this sucks. I think I'm going to go Buccaneers still. I have to go with the fact that I think Tom Brady should, be pissed off about the loss and get back on track here against a team that is struggling a little bit in the Saints. So I'll go with Tom Brady and the points. That's pretty much it for the podcast, guys. I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. If you guys could please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as subscribe to our podcast on Apple Music or Spotify or wherever you may be listening to your podcasts. If you would please follow us on our socials, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram. We would very much appreciate it. And once again, shout out to my guy Weston for editing. He's the man, and we will talk to you next week. See ya.